Oh, that's a cute.
Senate will please come to order. We'll gather for a moment of silence. A moment. Well done. All right. Are there any announcements? Seeing none, we do have one Senate bill for introduction. It is S-301, introduced by the Committee on Agriculture. This is the first bill by title.
S-301, an act relating to miscellaneous agricultural subjects.
You've heard the first reading of the bill placed on the calendar for action, on the calendar for notice on the next calendar. That brings us to the order of the day. We have up for action S-154. S-154 was read for the first time for the Committee on Transportation, and just consider the same. It recommends that when the bill be amended, the bill shall pass. Please listen to the second reading of the bill.
S-154, an act relating to the Vermont State Plane Coordinate System.
Now you've heard the second reading of the bill. For the report of the Committee on Transportation, the Senator from Washington, Senator Perschler.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is a bill that proposes to establish the Vermont State Plane Coordinate System. And the word plane is in here, but there is nothing to do with airplanes, nothing to do with airports, nothing to do with air travel, other than that when you're using air travel, you want to know where you're going. And this helps the GPS systems operate the way we want them to operate. So before I go into the section by section, which is pretty detailed because there's two whole sections, is that why is this in the statute? Why are we doing this? And basically that is because the coordinate system, which is created by the National Geodetic Survey, gets updated. We had an 1927 version, we had an 83 version. Other small updates were made. The 2022 version is now the international standard. And so all states are going through this process where they're in their statute. We are making a change to make just referencing the geodetic survey. So we won't have to come back if they make an amendment in the future, then we won't have to come back and deal with this again. So we'll take it out of the legislative process because as you'll hear, this is not normal legislative language or issues that the legislature kind of deals with or has the expertise to deal with. So because what the coordinating system is used for is defining and stating locations of points on the surface of the earth within the state of Vermont. All states have these coordinating systems, these datums, and some states have multiple ones, but we have one for the whole state. It's up to the states how they create this data and use it, but it's in coordination with the national and international standards. And the reason they have to update this is because things do change. We have tectonic shift, we have rebounding from ice age. Vermont is moving eastward about 1 millimeter a year. Also, parts of Vermont are getting taller by about 1 millimeter a year. So things do change. Landslides, other things happen to where a point on the earth might change. Also, one of the interesting testimony that we received is that the center of the earth was recalculated and they were 2.2 meters off. And this is important because these datums are all referenced to the center of the earth because that's the point of the center of all gravity, which a lot of this is based off. So if you want to argue about where the center of the earth is, I'm not prepared to argue other than that it's 2.2 meters different than where we thought it was before. So section 1 updates this 1 VSA chapter 17 to update this chapter that deals with the state plane coordinate system that was formally established by the National Ocean Service National Geodetic Survey, but now is just for this National Geodetic Survey. The statute is updated from the 1927 to 83 coordinate system and makes it clear that now we're all using the 2023 system to be known as the Vermont State Plane Coordinated System. It clarifies that when using the 23 Vermont State Plane Coordinated System, distances shall be measured in, quote, meters and decimals of a meter or international feet and decimals of a foot. And do not use the international. The international foot shall be the measurement. Before we use the US survey foot, but that is just very different than international foot. And we define in statute what an international foot is, which equals 0.3048 meters exactly. And that when we make it clear that the international foot shall be used for all foot distances and coordinates, unless you're referencing to legacy coordinated systems, reference that being the 27 or the 83 coordinate systems. In subsection 679 of this title is where your transportation committee does have one amendment. This language in the bill that was proposed by the National Geodetic Survey, and the Vermont Geographic Systems had a consultant that helped them with the drafting, but they just basically was a drafting error. So we're just correcting that. So on page 102, you'll see the amendment was just striking out some language and making just the language clear that we're using the 2022 National Geodetic Survey, and that will be our reference going forward, so that we don't have any disagreements about what measurements we're going to be using. Section 2 is the effective date, and it will take effect upon passage because we want this coordination to be happening as soon as possible. We heard from a list of witnesses. We heard from John Adams, the director of the Center for Geographic Information, the Agency of Digital Services. Dr. Anderson, Ledge Council. Dan Martin, he was the geodetic advisor from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And Tim Turway from the Vermont Center for Geographic Information. And they gave a very interesting testimony, our committee thought. And they did do a good job of both talking about some very scientific things that we didn't know a lot about in the committee, and like how you calculate where the center of the earth is. But they also did a good job about showing why this is important for us and why our constituents, if you use a GPS in your car, or they gave an example of a farmer that has a corn seed operated that has a GPS that needs to have exact locations on points of the earth. And we talked about how we live on an elliptical globe. But when we look at a map, it's a plane. So it has to, how we move things from being measured on a curve to putting them on a map is all what this is about. And it makes our maps more accurate. So when you have DigSafe come out and say, where is this natural gas line so I don't hit it? This is the information that's used to make sure that you do not hit that gas line when you're digging your well or whatever it is. So with that, thank you, Mr. President. Oh, and the committee did vote on this. The committee voted 4-0-1, and we ask for your support of this.
I so wish I was still a senator to ask some questions. The question is, shall the Senate adopt the report of the Committee on Transportation? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed indicate by saying nay. The ayes have it. You have adopted the report of the Committee on Transportation. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for that question? Senator from Washington.
I forgot also that one of the committee's favorite quotes from one of the witnesses was that this is going to make Vermont flat again.
Even better for us flatlanders. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed indicate by saying nay. The ayes have it. You've ordered third reading of S-154. You are passing over the proposition that is on the calendar, which is yours today. Senator from Orleans.
Thank you.
You bet. Clairvoyant.
Pending entry on the calendar for notice, I move that S-301, an act relating to miscellaneous ag issues, be recommitted to the Committee on Agriculture.
Now, the senator from Orleans has moved that pending entry on the calendar for notice, S301, an act relating to miscellaneous agricultural subject be committed to the Committee on Agriculture. And ready for the question. First of all, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those indicate by saying nay. The ayes have it, and you have committed S301 Committee on Agriculture. Senator from Chittenden Central.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pending announcements, I would move that the Senate stand in adjournment until 9:30 a.m. Tuesday, January 30.
Are there any announcements? See, Senator from Washington,
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Finance will meet at 1 o'clock.
Senator from Bennington,
Senate Education will meet at 1 o'clock.
Senator from Madison,
Seneca Bobs will meet at 1 o'clock.
Senator from Essex,
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate institutions will meet at 1 o'clock.
are there any further announcements? Seeing none, the Senator from Chittenden Central has moved that the Senate now stand adjournment until Tuesday, January 30th at 9:30 a.m. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed indicate by saying nay. Chair is in doubt. I'll need all those in favor, please rise. You can sit down, all those opposed. You can stay standing. Please listen to the results of your vote. Apparently, my ears were a little clogged. It was 25 yay, 3 nay. The Senate will stand adjournment until Tuesday, January 30th at 9:30. I said you could stay, right?